Go that. All right, it's 5 o'clock, Tuesday, August 19th, and I'm calling this Port of Hood River Board meeting order. Are there any modifications or additions to the agenda? None from staff. Public comment, we have a few letters in the packet. And we also have some folks signed in, which wish to speak. So I'd like to start by calling up Michael Margota. Am I pronouncing that correctly? Close enough. Close enough. Thank you.
And this is just for public comments, so I'm just going to lay it out there. I know there's no response, but the event site's a major part of our city, and you guys are in charge of that. And one of the things that appears to be lacking is options for all those people that are down there in terms of food and beverage. We've got one little stand, lines forever on that thing. Only reason they're there is because they got everything pre-packaged. No gray water, no water requirements and all that. I have an opportunity with a portable cart, trailer, to be able to supply beverages and snacks fresh. I can do the gray water. I can do the water by bringing it in and out. And I feel it's just one, the area needs it. Two, I've got this cart that I'm only using for festivals about half a dozen times a year, and it just sits wasting time. It supplies a service. It ain't a moneymaker really by the time I pay for labor and everything like that. But I'd rather have it somewhere where it gets used. So I'm just throwing that out there. I know there's a big issue with the wastewater thing. Perhaps that could be worked around. But I'd like to throw it out there that I think we need down there at the vet center some more options for those that go there. So that's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks for coming.
And I lost it.
Do you want this one?
No, I'm moving.
That's sweet. All right, we have one other person. I thought I saw someone come in late. Did you want to sign up to this? Okay. The next person signed up to speak is Linda Maddox.
Good evening. I've had a long day and I just barely made it back here for this. I have got some criticisms to make. It's extremely upsetting for me. But I'm most concerned about are doing the right things for the port. And I got this article just been bothering me right along about the roundabout. And then when I was reading the packet today, I noticed it was called the Waterfront Development Progress Report. That's where things are listed, etc. And I happened to run into somebody at ODOT last bit. I didn't make a phone call. I ran into somebody, and they said they weren't for the roundabout, that the port was pushing it. And so I really want you to take a look at that. But the main thing that I'm upset about is something else. And that is that I just read today, this morning, and in the package, that the Jensen building may be up for sale. That there was some sort of sentence that reflects potential purchase by an out-of-state investor. Okay, and I was in a big hurry, so I was going to the hospital in Portland. So I didn't get every word there. But anyway, we're talking about reflect potential purchase by an out-of-state investor. And I mean, maybe it's part of your packet, Kevin. And but I was just like, oh my God, I hope the Port Commission realizes this is public property. We are not going to sell it to an out-of-state investor. And I just, it's been on my, in my head all day. And I was just, I was shocked to see that statement. I'm concerned about the roundabout, but this just takes the cake. And I can't even imagine that you all would think that was a good idea. It's public property. It should remain public, whether the port remains or not. And I just, want to remind you of that. And I really truly want you to do things that enhance the area. And I actually think you do too. At least Drake Christie does. And
I think everyone does.
yeah, we want to do things that enhance it and that make it more enjoyable. And so at another time, I'll talk about parking. I know it's all way over time. Thank you, Tor.
May I just ask one? What was the building that is allegedly for sale? The Jensen building. Okay.
Jensen Building.
Okay.
Yes, it is the prime piece of waterfront.
Well, you asked why. I'm clarifying that because this is all brand new news.
It's under you. The package. But yeah, it's the building for you people here. It's the building. Right.
Oh, I know the building. Yes.
Okay, but I'm just telling the other people because I think it's important. Other people know too. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Thanks.
Oh,
There were a few more people that came in.
yeah.
Anyone that came in since the comment started wanted to sign up? Like, go ahead. Just ready. And I think we can probably shoot it. Your name's Claire. Okay, great. So much. Yeah, you got 5 minutes to chat.
Okay. Oh, right now?
Right now?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You're on. I was expecting my husband to be here, but here I am with my kid. So I've been in contact with some other moms that are concerned. So it's pretty emotional. I might get a little emotional, but it's just because I feel very strongly about this situation. We were at a birthday party down at the beach in the port, and right after we left, another mom, also named Claire, very weirdly, noticed a guy recording the kids there. So, I mean, I think anyone here who's a parent can understand like the gut-wrenching, sick feeling that we all got having that happen. It wasn't just somebody recording, it was somebody specifically recording the kids who tried to hide it, who acted very guilty when confronted. There's a big difference between somebody innocently videoing kids and going, oh, like, my bad, I didn't mean to get your kid in the shot or whatever. But he obviously didn't react well to this confrontation. Cops were called. It was a big situation. So, you know, this became a whole thing on Facebook. Of course, everybody had to comment. But I just wanted to say, like, my husband reached out. Other people I know have reached out. Pretty much the response has been that the cops are saying we can't do anything, and the court is saying we can't do anything. But I would really just like us all to try to do something. Anything is better than nothing. I understand that he's on public property. And looking back, there have been a lot of people posting publicly, hey, this guy's around. We've compared pictures. It's the same guy. He's wearing the same shoes. He has the same bag. He has the same mark on his leg. And it's been the same story every time that the cops are called. And then again, they can't do anything because he's recording on public property. There's a lot of ideas of what can be done. Some people are saying, hey, why don't we put up some kind of changing shelter? Why isn't there, like, you know, a rule for that beach specifically saying like, hey, you can't record people? You know, a lot of people were saying in the comments, oh, just change your kid at home. Okay, well, who has had a toddler who gets wet and gets sand in their swimsuit and is ripping their swimsuit off, or is a potty training kid who pees their pants? You know, it's not realistic to say that everybody all the time, 100% of the time, act as though there's predators all around us, but there's a real specific situation happening where there's a repeated person coming back. There's 3 years of posts about this same person with people posting the same pictures of the same guy. He's now coming back disguising himself, which like one day he's got a fake drawn on beard, the next day it's filled in more. So it's clearly fake. It's not like he grew a beard more in one day. I'm also concerned as somebody who's worked with children that it kind of seems like the response is, well, he hasn't done anything bad enough yet. What kind of harm do we want to come to a child before we make action? I don't want us to wait for something bad to happen to a kid. That trauma that can't be undone before we do something. Whether it's something as simple as putting up some kind of a changing partition or something, or working to ban this person specifically, or banning videography in that area. I mean, I would just like to hear that ideas are being spoken and that people are working towards a solution, because it's not enough to wait for something bad to happen to a little kid before we do something. And, you know, I've worked my whole career in childcare. I care very deeply about advocating for children because they can't do it for themselves. And so even though I'm here crying, I'm here saying, like, please, let's have the conversation going and be actively working towards a solution, because it's not enough to just say we can't do anything and then have a kid get hurt. And, you know, anyone who has looked at the research on people who do these kinds of crimes, there's an escalation that happens. And the fact that this guy has been coming for 3 years, but then came 3 days in a row, is very scary to me as a parent, because I don't want that to be that his cycle is ramping up and that something is now horrible is going to happen when it already feels like something really horrible happened to my daughter, who I don't even share her face on social media. And now there could be somebody who has a video of her changing out of her Sandy swimsuit. So yeah, that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you. Thank you for coming.
Okay, thanks to everyone that participated in public comment. Let's move on to the consent agenda. Anyone have any questions or comments about the consent agenda, or can I get a motion to approve it?
I'll get the motion.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, and votes.
Aye.
Chair, I to approve the consent agenda and 1 abstention. Commissioner Chapman. Commissioner
Aye.
Garrett. Aye. Okay. Thank you.
You said there was an extension?
Oh, she's back. Your vote?
Yeah.
Okay, aye. Well, aye. Moving on to informational reports. We've got a monthly financial report.
Yes, were there any questions about it? I know, Commissioner Thomas had sent me some questions about it in advance. Did we want to have any discussion at the end of the year financial report? I don't usually. I looked at you blankly for a moment there, like, yes, there is.
There's something you wanted to say.
So, well, it's the end of the year and we're in budget. Okay, there were no unexpected items that I'm aware of.
Any questions?
Yeah,
Okay.
oh, good, yes. Yeah, anytime you have questions, please feel free to reach out.
No, don't be sorry.
I'm going to ask you a couple questions. If it is the end of the year, there has been a lot of concern about transparency. So I would just like to say that the packet does demonstrate to me fiscal transparency, where the money is going, how it's being spent, and how it's outlay. So I do appreciate all the work that has gone into this, and it is substantial. I appreciate that. I just want to bring attention to specifically the general fund line item capital outlay, which projects did not occur leading to the 12% total for the general fund being expended, as opposed to more of that Can you just kind of give a brief overview as to what maybe we might expect in the future?
Yes, and actually, it's not uncommon for this to happen with capital outlay. We budgeted for the parking lots and actually there was some budget also, at one point we were talking about some storage units up at Lower Mill, and then also the T hangers out at the airport. And so all of that combined is why there was a fairly large budget, but most of that didn't get done. And so it's being pushed over into the next fiscal year. And of course, the storage units are on hold. You know, what happens up at Lower Mill. The T hangers are getting well underway now, and also the parking lot project is well underway now. So I expect the majority of that money to be spent this fiscal year instead of last fiscal year.
Okay. And then industrial properties, the line item, the personal services was vastly over budget. What services did the Port of Hood River not offer, or why did the over budgeting occur?
So it was budgeted. It was budgeted for a position that we had in the prior fiscal year. We were indecisive at the time that the budget was prepared. And so we went ahead and budgeted for that position. We ended up not filling that position. Some of the services, it was the property development manager, which we did not fill that position. And a lot of the things that position was doing was managing the tenants. If there were complaints, if there were repairs that were needed, if there were vacancies, then working to fill those vacancies. Also managing the airport was under that position. So there was it was a very broad position. And so what we did was bring in contractors to do, so we brought in Tom Bocci to help fill vacancies. We brought in Jeff Renard to manage the airport. And then staff did pick up some of the additional things, like when tenants would need improvements or repairs, Daryl and Ryan would take those calls initially and then make sure that the work got done. So it was being done a little bit with internal staff, but primarily with contractors. And then we hired Amanda Rose in May, and she's given the title of property manager. And so she's taking over pretty much everything except the airport. She still does deal with some of the tenants up at the airport, but Jeff Renard is continuing to manage the airport at this time. So we primarily, the short answer is that we primarily filled it with contractors, that those services were provided by contractors.
And then just one final question, because I think it's an interesting statistic to share with. How much does it cost? Or I guess Marina Basin section, can you remind the public how much it costs to irrigate Marina Green?
Yeah, just for irrigation is around $27,000 a year, just for irrigation on Marina Green.
So we don't want it to be Marina Brown.
Right.
Right? Yeah. So just want to make sure that we are as understanding this community of how much it actually costs.
Yes, and a shout out to our maintenance department
Yes.
for keeping it green. It looks good this year.
Okay, those are all the questions I think are. Thank you for all your answers.
Thank you.
All right, moving on, port facilities discussion. Director Greenwood.
Sure. So you've heard some comments this evening. And so this discussion item is really for the Port Commission to discuss our code, our facilities code, and whether the commission would like to see any additional changes to our code that could help with these types of situations that come up. We do have Emily Matasar from Barry Elsner and Hammond. She is a colleague of Ashley's. And so she is here to answer any questions, or if you've got questions. She's got some background. She's been looking into this issue. And so, as you know, the statute, there wasn't an explicit violation or criminal violation. And there was nothing in the port's code that would allow us to trespass this individual. So really, I was hoping that this could be a discussion item amongst the board and your attorney to see what, if any, changes you want to make in the facilities code.
Do we start?
Yeah, sure.
I'm a parent, so I understand when you feel helpless when it comes to your children. I empathize with that, and I think that it's, as a parent, you always want the best for your kid. I also feel it's public property, and it is very hard to police someone's interpretation of appropriate and inappropriate. So do we want to put ourselves in another layer of that policing? Or do we want to allow our law enforcement to make that decision for us? I have, we talked about changing rooms years ago, and it kept coming back to unintended consequences. You create another facility that has some inherent problems of now there's a private area where someone could take you, where nefarious things could happen in a private area. So if you think about this in a 360-degree, I mean, I don't know the answer. I agree a discussion needs to be had. But I also know telling people that they can't photograph when we're inviting people to come down to the water to enjoy the recreational activities, it's sending a mixed message. So I don't know what to do. What do you feel?
Well, just take a survey of other thoughts, commissioners.
What do you feel?
First of all, I think it's disgusting that anyone would, if this occurs, would do something like that. I mean, we're all parents, so I think it's disgusting. It makes me angry. What can we do are my questions. We're not a policing agency, nor will we be. We don't make law. If we do change a code, if it's something that simple where we could change a code in the port charter that would allow us to call the police department and allow them to take action, then I think that's a simple thing that we should do. The question is, we can say whatever we want, but we can't ask the police to break the law if that's what they say they're doing. So I guess my questions are can I ask you guys questions, Tom? Sure. If we change our code and say, if we think you're taking a picture of a child on port property, can we issue a trespass and expect that the police will then act in whatever, or in what capacity can you act?
On your code itself, you guys can write a code of any choice you choose to, as long as your attorney agrees to it. It doesn't conflict with state, and some codes do, but you got to think of constitutional right, First Amendment, i.e. state statutes. Private sector, you can trespass anyone. Doesn't matter what you want to do, you can just trespass it. But being port, where it is premises open to the public, where i.e. public can go and access and use it, i.e. public, you've got to be very careful for that fine line, what you can and can't do.
And so we would still
You guys can trespass anyone you choose to based on your legal team stating you could do that. We would have no problem, or you sending a letter or some kind of notification that can be handed to, be it through your security team or whatever it may be, and saying you're trespassed. That would be your business choice.
And if they return, do we have any recourse through the police to affect some more forceful change there?
Well, once someone violates if you trespass someone from property, then it becomes a crime if you return to the property. I will give like an example of like Walmart. They have a 1-year trespass order. Usually they'll give to someone. If you return within 1 year, then there's a crime for returning to a property that you've been legally trespassed for.
So I have a follow-up question for the attorney on that.
Well, I just want to finish then. If we can do that, then why wouldn't we allow ourselves to trespass whomever we want for whatever reason, and then be able to request of the police whatever's possible at that time?
But as public lands devil's advocate and thinking of unintended consequences for the attorney, would he have recourse to say, I wasn't doing anything different than anyone else?
I was filming the birds. The kids happened to get in the way. That's a good question. That's a legal question.
Hi, yeah. So I would say that, like the police officer said there, you can't I would not recommend trespassing someone for any reason. You, as a port, you're still a government entity and you're constrained by what a government entity can do. So, for example, people have First Amendment rights. So you could not trespass someone for something that was protected because you, even though this is this is private port property open to the public, you're still a government entity and constrained by those laws. So having said that, there are things we can do. You can definitely make certain, like I think your other attorney, Ashley Dugill, mentioned, there are codes of conduct that you can implement that must be applied equally to everyone. And then you can, if someone violates the code of conduct, I wouldn't recommend trespassing them. My recommendation would be exclude them for a period of time. And then if they violate that exclusion, which would also provide an appeal right. So these are all things that, like, you as a government entity are required to provide to people. If they violate that exclusion, then that becomes a trespass, and then you can trespass them every time they appear. But that's like a long line of things we have to work on, and there are lots of constraints against you because you are a government entity. Did that answer your question? Did I just generate more questions?
It's very sticky.
I'm sorry. So, and I apologize for addressing public minority, but there's not currently a policy, state, federal, that states you cannot take pictures of minors without guardian consent, correct? Correct. So we would be creating policy for the first time for the Port of Hood River that could potentially solve this issue and also be pointed at by different government agencies as this precedent. Is that the correct statement is that correct? I just want to put that out there because it's not, I am a parent, I have an adopted daughter and I have a foster son. And I saw the post and I responded to the post and said, so I want to acknowledge all the work it takes to get here to this meeting to do public comment and all the courage. So I want to acknowledge that. I know. But there was not anything that nobody else has created this. And so I think there is a hesitancy at my end to be the first. Port of Hood River is creating a public, how is this not more nationally appropriate? So I just want to put that out there. It will be the first. Do I think we should put signs up that says, no, you shall not take pictures of minors without guardian consent? I think that's a great idea. The issue though is then it's a waterfront with athletes who are trying to maybe get found and elevated and sponsored. So people do take pictures of kids doing waterfront activities on the regular. And then on the other side of it, just, pause, there are naked kids in pictures. And the standard, I think, from the Supreme Court is when you know it, when you see it. And I would imagine, based on the conversations I've heard, is that this gentleman's phone has been deleted a couple times because they did feel that it was not appropriate picture. So I just want to show that there's the balance there that we're all trying to, because I have discussed this with many constituents since this issue occurred. And there is like, well, hang on, if we're going to go all high and right, what about the kid that wants to get found by the sport? So we got to look at all the aspects. I think it is our duty to protect our constituents. And I think pedophilia is disgusting. And I think child porn is disgusting. And so I think if there's a way that we can create this exclusion followed by a trespass, that's great. But we have to all be in lockstep with the actual law enforcement. And so some of the questions I asked of Kevin was, has the port actually analyzed the costs and benefits of employing its own law enforcement versus relying on existing agencies? Kevin came back and said, yes, it's quite a bit of cost. I don't think that that's like us to say, no, we shouldn't go this way, but there are ways we're also looking outside of just relying on the very overly tapped sheriff and police, right? So I just want to make sure that we all kind of hear and see where the issue is. I am for creating a policy that is well clearly written with lawyers' intent that says, if you can say, yes, you broke this rule, you can no longer come to court policy and then moving forward. And I'm 100%
ready to be the first in the country. I mean, that's ridiculous if you think about it, honestly, it's 2025. But are we as a commission ready to be the first one? Because you know it's gonna be an interesting thing that people will come and try to see what happens if they break the rule. And not just because people do that, and it's just an interesting thing. So I just wanted to put that out there as concerns.
Heather, do you have anything you'd like to add right now? I want to make sure you get a chance to.
Yeah, I'm having a little hard time with the audio. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, it's kind of going in and out on my end. I think there's been a little bit of confusion about how the port property is policed, and it seems like some of our constituents had the misconceived notion that the police have to have our permission to enforce the law, which is not true. All the port property is under the city's jurisdiction, and it's their duty to enforce the laws there. And I, obviously, anybody that's not evil believes that taking pictures of minors the way this man is doing is just gross and evil. However, I don't believe that the port should start going down the road of new rules and putting up signs that say you can't take pictures of minors. I think we don't want to start down a road of possibly having unintended consequences of taking away freedoms and rights of all the law-abiding citizens, and use the laws that are already in place to try to stop this behavior. And as far as I know right now, this is one guy that we're dealing with. And I understand that we want to stop it from escalating. We don't want anything bad to happen to anybody. I just think that we'd put ourselves into some unintended consequences and a legal quagmire if we start trying to create new laws.
Thank you. I'd like to share my perspective very briefly and then a suggestion, see what you guys think. I think trying to go beyond current state and city and trying to legislate new rules is like trying to unravel a Gordian knot. It's a really difficult, time-consuming, expensive, and I don't even know that it would solve the problem. It's like putting up signs that say no jaywalking. It's not necessarily going to be effective. There's also an issue about who's judging whether people are crossing the line. It's very difficult. So I would suggest we take a sword to the Gordian knot and come at this from a different direction. The idea was suggested of a changing area, and I understand what people have in their heads when they envision that there's a variety of things. Why not just have like a 5 foot high partition that's just two pieces, like a shallow V, but coming up from the ground, just like 4 or 5 feet high, that faces out to the water, partway down on the beach. There, boom, you've got a place where you could change, children could change, people could change, and the only way to see those people would be from the water side. So if we just had something very simple like that, that could solve the problem of creating a space for people to change without having to potentially get into legal difficulties with people's First Amendment rights, without having to try to, I don't know. there are tremendous difficulties and expenses involved with trying to create and then enforce really narrow ordinances like the ones that are being discussed. And I feel like a partial changing area like that could solve the problem. Thoughts?
Or I kind of like where you're going with this in that it creates, I'm just trying to look at some examples. It creates a separated area, but it doesn't create an enclosed.
It's not
area.
enclosed. It's just, it'd be extraordinarily difficult for anyone to film or take pictures of anyone changing there.
It's almost like someone just holding up a giant towel.
Yeah, it's like,
Relax.
which I've done, with my kids, hold up the towel. This creates a big fixed towel. So,
Can I add something?
yeah, go ahead.
For projects like that, that's something that the foundation would probably be really interested in exploring and funding if hopefully some people listening will be interested in applying for the foundation and becoming part of the solution there.
Right.
It's online on our website. Get on and apply.
I think it's a great project. It's also another opportunity to beautify the waterfront. It could be artistically done, and be both functional and aesthetic.
Yeah.
So, I'm not suggesting that we don't continue to consider legal routes. I think that's worth looking into, but based on my own research, raises a lot of difficulties, very serious difficulties. So
I also think it's a good opportunity for us to educate and re-educate. We've had some incidents over the summer, as we always do, of near barge misses, incidents with, accidents on the water. And I think it's a good reminder for us to do another kind of a personal responsibility campaign of, I say the giant towel because as a parent, I'm very concerned of my own children. I always brought the towel, the super big one, and annoyed my husband to hold it up in the wind. And
We
but
can only have public comment at public comment time.
Yeah, I'm
Really,
sorry.
Can I ask a question?
no, I'm sorry. There's a public comment. We've done public comment. We're moving on. This is a chance for the commission to have a conversation about what
yeah, after the meeting.
needs to do.
Great,
But
great.
but I'm open to all possibilities. I like the short-term solution
Yeah,
possibility.
That's
even
something
even
we
some
could-
planted vegetation
yeah,
to create some separation areas. I don't know. We could look into it.
Yeah.
I don't think that anyone's ignoring the problem, obviously, with the police here, and we've been talking about this for a number of years, and it's just difficult because we have to balance the rights of parents, the rights of children, and the rights of the public.
right.
Is there
Um,
anything else, I'm sorry, that Chief Holste wants to add to this conversation? And if he does, can he step up to the mic so I can hear him?
She just wanted to make you do that.
I know, after she bashed me and she's like, it's our job to do this. I will say, pro public service, we've never not responded to a single call when we've been called in regards to this individual. This individual's been in our community for many years. This individual comes to our gorge area, not the city of Hood River, but actually has an Airbnb in these rents every year. We have turned every bit of rock over, figuring out who this individual is. And there's nothing in his past, not saying nothing in the future can happen. I agree, I've got many kids. But he has nothing on his record or anything like that that indicates he's ever been charged or convicted of anything that we're speaking of today. So we as in Detective Mason today in uniform, literally turned this guy's information upside down, making sure connecting to his agency where he actually lives, making sure that there's nothing there, anybody working any cases, anything like that. So we've definitely done our due diligence as far as determining who he is and what his past is, and we can't predict the future. The only thing I would say when you guys kind of leaning towards the ordinance and such, when you've got an ordinance, you've got to be careful. Years I've done it, you've got to develop information, you have to develop evidence. Just because it's an ordinance doesn't allow law enforcement to go, give me your phone and let me look at it. Right to refuse. It's not a state statute. We're not investigating the crime. So he has a lot more leeway and rights for that. The times I think someone had mentioned, I think it might have been Heather, that we had looked at his phone. He wasn't obligated to give the phone to us. He chose to give the phone to us. Officer Delancey, Sergeant Delancey looked at the phone. There was pictures and videos of the kids playing on the waterfront. He didn't make that individual. He asked, hey, might be smart to delete that. Right then and there, and he did delete it just for the request. We couldn't make him do that. So just to want to let you guys know, you call, we respond. We're going to do our due diligence to have him be seen. And I always recommend those that are down, especially parents. Doesn't mean you can't stand in front of that individual. You have rights as parents legally to do certain things. So your idea, I mean, kind of something that's kind of an idea you were pushing for. I like the idea. The other part of that, you've just got to be careful because with coverage, just parents still have to do parental rights because now they're behind something. Anybody that is a predator gives them an opportunity, you know. So
Right.
Has the other side of that.
Sure.
Yeah. You still have to have the parent not hold the tablet, make them near there during the process. So that would be my 2 cents. So do you have any questions for me?
I don't.
Very helpful.
So we have some directions to move. Is there any desire to add anything, or are you ready to move on?
I'd be fine with having staff look at your idea. I do think it's with the first redevelopment that something more significant will be in the future there, but that doesn't solve anything short term.
Right.
So I'd be fine with that.
Okay.
I have one question sorry, that I didn't ask you while you're at the podium, but has this individual left the local area? Do we know?
He's very seasonal. He only stays here for, gosh, a month or two, if that. Yeah, and then just goes back to his own community. So it's kind of a pattern he does for vacation.
Okay. Thank you. I'd just like to add that I'm very impressed with Hood River City Police diligence in this matter. Really impressive. Thank you. Makes me feel good.
I have one thing.
Yeah.
I just want to echo what Heather mentioned as far as people volunteering for the foundation. I'm not sure if you have to be a member or resident of Hood River to be on the foundation. The foundation is going to focus on the waterfront, safety, cleanliness. There's going to be all kinds of different projects. If that interests anybody who actually wants to be involved in decisions that will get made, more money will get spent, take a look at the website and apply for that. They need more people.
Okay. So we have a directed staff to look into this, and let us move on to Amanda and the Industrial Street Studios.
So we have tenant at Big 7.
You guys.
A reserve. The beer goes, Ridley Suites 303 and 302A, are co-op. And I take the floor.
Hi, everyone. Nice to meet you all. Yeah, okay. We have a little presentation that was pretty colorful compared to the rest of the notes that you guys had. But I'm Eliza. I've lived in Hood River for about 5 years now. I work in nonprofit community organizing. I'm one of the leaders of this project, Industrial Street Studios. And I'm Paige. I've also lived here for about 5 years, and I am an architect by day and doing this by night. So, and evenings and afternoons and weekends. Are you guys? Yeah, that's cool. Yeah. Okay, so this is kind of the pitch deck we put together that we've been sharing with folks that want to learn more, and we kind of amended it for you all today. At the port, we're going to go through kind of the problem and solution that we aim to solve, the values and mission of this organization, the team and the timeline, some of the team sitting in the back, which is super nice to have them here. The operating model, who's going to be part of this project, and then the space and the port partnership, which you all know about. But we wanted to dig in a little deeper, and then we have some time for questions too. So yeah, this kind of started because Sarah Wolf, who's one of your tenants in the 616 building, and Diana, who is of Clay Commons and is a new tenant in your building, saw that this floor was open for rent. And so last March, we hosted a meeting, and I helped kind of put it together because I like to organize stuff. And we had over 40 artists come to it, and we kind of asked them, what do you need? This wasn't rentable for one single business. But we had a lot of like artists come together that were smaller, that really felt like they needed affordable studio space in the area. And we also wanted to solve for this sense of disbursement and feelings of isolation. Many of us, we all live in rural communities, sometimes far apart. A lot of us work from home. Artists create from home. And so we wanted a space where folks were coming together and really having this third space for community gatherings, programming, and arts exhibition. So artists to show their work, but also really just to have a space for folks to commingle and have meetings and community events. And so, yeah, we've come up with this multi-use space. Paige will kind of walk through the specific details later, but we want this to be we're going to have private studio spaces, a gallery, event space, and teaching rooms. And we really want this to be a hub of resources for artists, creatives, entrepreneurs, and anyone that wants to kind of get together to talk about art and community. And yeah, it'll be kind of for people of all ages, although the folks that are currently going to be like renting the space, anchoring the space, I guess we would call them, are probably between 25 and 65. So it's kind of big range. You can go to the next. So kind of this was kind of the intersection. One of the artists that's going to be in the space helped us put together this Venn diagram of what we're hoping to accomplish. We've kind of been speaking to many different audiences throughout this. First, we had to ascertain, did artists want this? Were they going to be committed to it? And so we've been kind of speaking to them in terms of what kind of space do you need? What amenities do you need in the space? And we had a lot of interest. And so one of the parts of the Venn diagram is the artists and the creatives that'll be kind of regular tenants in the space. And then one of the other big pillars is community. And so we wanted to be a space to bring together members, artists, public, tourists. There's a lot of visitors that come just to like visit, and Wolf Ceramics is like a huge draw to this region. They're very popular. And so this will be kind of an addition to the artist hub that this building is turning into, which is super exciting. And then another piece of it was really the economy. And this is going to be a cooperative. So the artists, the members will own the space, will own the business. The idea is that we're actually creating revenue that will go back into the folks' pockets who are putting effort into the space. And so we'll do that by renting out classroom space, revenue from gallery, and having kind of shared resources and membership opportunities. And you can go to the next slide. This is some of the team, a lot of artists, some organizers. Diana, who's on the left, is another tenant in the space. If you haven't met her, she's running the Clay Commons. She's awesome. So you can go to the so I mentioned the first initial meeting. From that was in March of 2024. We kind of got a lot of knowledge what people needed. We decided there was just tons of mention of this being a cooperative. So we took a class on cooperative. We met with the Small Business Development Center. We met with MCED. We tried to figure out, we created a business plan that we presented to the port. And we formed a board, and we formed a official cooperative with the state of Oregon. And we then put out a pre-lease form, and over 40 artists indicated interest on that. And we then were like, okay, we need money. So that was like a big piece. How do we get this going? We had really, really luckily Paige, an architect. We have a friend who's an interior designer. We've had amazing mentorship and support from the port and from the different staff members, and from Tom Bocci. Shout out Tom Bocci, he was really helpful. and in signing the lease and negotiating the lease. And we've been fundraising. So we have over $70,000 raised. And we're working on securing the rest of the funds so that we can build out the space for the artists to begin to move in. And we're hoping that we move in fall of 2025, in October of 2025. So that's kind of the gist for now. Let Paige do some details.
Yeah, so as Eliza mentioned, this has been formed as a cooperative business, which is technically a corporation, but what that means is that no single board member, or no single individual, or no two individuals own this entity. The entity is going to be owned by the folks who are licensing these studio spaces from Industrial Sheet Studios. So each of those artists, like she mentioned, has a chance to get the profits from the cooperative back, or to vote as a community to reinvest those profits into furthering the growth and scaling of Industrial Sheet Studios. The building is, there's still some open space in that building. I know Amanda's working real hard for there to be no open space in the building, but there are some opportunities for us to expand. Like Eliza mentioned, we would love for this to be a creative hub of a building. It's a cool space and there's a lot of opportunities. But what that means for the artists is that there are folks who've been working, in these silos and very individualistically, just is kind of how the arts pan out with gallery spaces and with marketing and selling your art. It does become a solo venture a lot of times. So being able to offer support to those artists to allow them to have something to lean on in marketing their art, and having a place, because it's zoned industrial, this is a space for production craft and to be sold direct to consumer or to a wholesaler, or however it makes sense. But the space requires art to be produced and sold. So we're hoping to be able to support the artists and let them have a say in that too, instead of being governed or dictated by a gallery, a manager, an agent, giving them back that autonomy in their art and not being beholden to someone else to get a paycheck. As mentioned, there are going to be 21 semi-private studios, essentially cubicles. I've been calling them cubicles, but that's not very fun. It's very artsy. So 21 semi-private studios. We have 18 artists committed. They have the agreements in their hands. We're waiting for construction to start, which we are anticipating should be in the next few weeks. But they're all ready to sign those agreements. It'll be structured as a sublease in a way without actually being a sublease from the port. So it kind of keeps a little bit of the burden off of the port and it kind of into our hands to manage those subleases. We had 18 artists out of the 21 spaces. 95% of them have committed to 1-year rental licenses, which is awesome. Many have, even mentioned paying up front or already extending and being excited about this is a space that's not just a temporary drop-in co-working space, but something that's a community that's really built up and becomes like an organism of its own. The 500 square feet of gallery and exhibition space, again, just providing that space for artists to take a little bit of the burden of labor off of them and make it a little bit easier to get their art out into the world. Go to the next one. So as mentioned, here's a little rendering of the proposed build out for the space. Super simple. We want to keep it light and bright and inspiring and, really clean looking. So folks feel like I work in a clean space. I don't necessarily can't do craziness sometimes. So having that, but then having options internally for them to have a little bit of creative freedom within their own individual space. And we are in this really cool building that's a deep history in Hood River as an agriculturally based building. So it's really fun to start to see that shift into maybe a new economic tenet of what Hood River is or is becoming. So, we of course want to embrace that agricultural heritage and know that that's still a huge part of our community economics, but looking to maybe shift this building into being something a little bit more interesting and something that maybe drives people down from the core of the main streets of downtown a little bit further down into the more industrial part of this, and again, just extending the kind of economic footprint of downtown Hood River. As Eliza mentioned, we've been so thrilled to work with the port through the LOI process and the lease agreements and just the flexibility that they've had and the appreciation of the vision really that they've had. This is nothing right now. This is not a model that really exists many places, if anywhere, to this extent or this scale. So the belief that they have in this project and the excitement that they have had to see this progress and move forward and supporting that has been a tremendous help. We've got some really exciting partnerships planned with them, like physical redecoration is not the right word, like enhancement of the space, of the lobby space. We've already been in talks, and I know it's kind of gone through budgetary talks already about a mural that really brings in the artists that are in the space, and Sarah and Diana and the artists that are going to be in Industrial Sheet Studios collaborating on something that is, there's a little bit of ownership. So you don't feel like you're just in this rented box that you can't touch and that you can't be a part of and can't have it be a living thing. So we're really excited to hopefully start moving on that later this year. And yeah, just again, being a creative hub for hopefully expanding the arts community in Hood River, not just with working artists, but allowing the barrier to entry of arts to get lowered or, broken down in a big way. We're seeing arts programs cut out of schools and out of after school programs. So bridging the gap between working artists and, aging adults or young adults or populations that maybe don't have a ton of access or exposure to working artists and seeing the possibilities that are available for creative careers, I think is really exciting. And then on the other side of that coin, as someone who's in a creative profession, creatives aren't always the best at business. So providing a space for skill sharing, accountants, business planning, marketing, social media, a lot of things that artists maybe don't have the bandwidth for when they're creating, but bringing that to a space in a way that they can share those resources to grow their business. Each of these, as a cooperative, each of these people are operating as their own small business. So they're parts of a whole that are going to make Industrial Sheet Studios successful. But yeah, so.
Yeah. And we're working on connectivity. We've this whole time been meeting with other local organizations. And so United Way, Rotary, Lions Club. I also work for Comunidades, which is a local Latino organization, Arts and Education, and Hood River Education Foundation. So that folks are, when we have a space, aware that they can utilize this, the classroom will be able to be rented or loaned, and it'll be a space for whoever wants to create in it or work in it. Yeah.
I don't know if we're allowed to take questions, but we're up here.
You are.
Okay.
I don't know, will you accept them?
Yeah, absolutely.
I guess, what does success look like for you guys in a year from now?
That's such a good question. I think all the spaces being rented and artists committed, I think there being an understanding because this will be new for everybody, right? So artists coming into the space might not be used to working in shared spaces or working in a cooperative. And so we've really, really made sure that we understand the foundation and that the foundation values business plan set up for success. And so I think success will look like artists renewing their lease, and we've been able to make excess income on top of their leases, enough to not just pay off, the basic needs that we have, but to grow income. And typically cooperatives don't actually make income for like 3 to 5 years, on top of like breaking even. But that, I think for 1 year would just be like artists renewing their leases and us having, it's very interesting in the Gorge. You have to hit different pockets for people to understand what you're doing. And so we've been trying to do a lot of community outreach and engagement, Facebook, but also like going to events. And then, this is not just for Hood River, right? This is for anybody in the Gorge. So if you all know of like groups or like events we should be at to just talk about it, we're more than happy to do that, because we're trying to spread the word that this will be a space for, yes, the artists, but also we want other people. We hosted dance class, fundraiser, and like silent auction, and we had about like 200 people come through the space, which was awesome. And so we're hoping to be able to do more things like that within reason. But yeah, that's a great question.
Well, we have a very artistic community, a lot of culture here. And I like what you said about it being a living building. You know, having a building that's gonna be frozen in time for an artist studio never works. And so I like the thought of throwing paint up and letting artists take it as their own. I do have some, you know, questions for the port on how this financially is a win-win situation where we support you and also have it be supportive for the port. But I feel that this is what this community is eager about. You know, you have big art, and the port is very supportive of all the arts. And so if it works for the port to fill the space and it works to create this new environment, I think it's kind of a neat new endeavor that could bring a lot of notoriety to the artist collective in the Gorge.
Couple quick questions. I'm excited about what you were talking about, expanding the footprint of downtown and maybe bringing some foot traffic. So is there going to be some public sort of gallery space or people can come in and check it out? How is that gonna?
Yeah, so not getting too much into the weeds.
Yeah.
By zoning, right, you know, this space, like I mentioned, is required to be production, and that does allow for a certain percentage of total square footage to be exhibition and to be open to the public. So the goal would be to have regular business hours.
Yeah.
And knowing that some of these artists may be taking, you know, we've created a small meeting area within the space, and that some of these artists may be taking private client meetings to sell, but then opening, Diana and Sarah will both once a quarter or once or twice a year do studio sales. So working in tandem with them to be able to open the space up. So there's the art walk that we have in town, you know, making that an opportunity for people to come a little bit further down and see like a little bit past the Hope Studios and just see kind of an aggregation of art.
Great.
I think it's gonna be really important.
And then this letter of support that we created for you, does that help you with fundraising or anything?
It does, yeah. And
That's the idea. It's tough because we filed as a cooperative. So we're still attempting to apply for grants because sometimes you can, like Pacific Power has a grant, for example, for arts and culture that's opening. And so that would be a really great asset for those kinds of grants. And then there is potential at some point that we do create a nonprofit entity. But right now, I think because it's just a different, I mean, for all intents and purposes, like it will be a nonprofit, but it's not filed as that.
Yeah.
But yes, it would really help. Yeah, and we have a fiscal sponsor, so who is a nonprofit, and so they have been, for donors that have had larger amounts, they have been channeling their funds through them for tax exemption, which is really nice.
All right. Thank you so much for coming today.
Yeah, thank you.
You have any questions?
On the comment, maybe the port has a really long history of supporting incubators like this. I think it's exactly what we should be doing, and I'm glad we can. Yeah. I'd be happy to sign the letter, absolutely. Thank you.
We really appreciate it. This is like, we're not, I mean, we never started a business before, so this is this is a really exciting opportunity, and I feel like we've learned so much, and we're just really excited to see it materialize. And thanks to the two of you.
Yeah,
Really
seriously.
appreciate it for all the
So much help.
upgrades and insights, and Kevin too. So thank you guys. Cool.
Thanks.
So just consensus for Heather to sign the letter.
Yes.
We're going to invite.
Heather, did you have anything to add or are you good?
I was just gonna say, nice work, ladies. So well thought through, and I'm excited for it. I was wondering if you are planning, I can't see the ladies anymore, but are you planning on having a website that would highlight all the different artists that are sharing the space so people could get on and see who all is in the industrial street studios with maybe links for purchasing art?
Yeah, so we have a rudimentary website right now that kind of lists kind of what we went through on this proposal, but we would love to have that once the artists are in there, maybe having photos or logos of each of them, and then you can go to their websites if they some of them like take Definitely.
Love
And
it.
spread the word. If you know, please spread the word. It'd be awesome. Thank you.
Thank you again. Moving on, Daryl Stafford, with the Mount Hood Meadows parking agreement.
All right, I'm back. Good evening, Commissioners. So I have been working with Ann Gilbert, the Transportation Director at Meadows. Went with the original offer that we had proposed a few months ago. She's come back and said, well, that's more than what we really feel works for them. Wanted to know, are there other locations that would work? But that's not really the point. Taking that away from the event site would be such a bad deal for CAT and inconvenient for the community. So they had asked about any location in Ardell or the marina, the Mbila, and I don't think that's where we want to go, but I wanted to touch base with all of you, and we have a new commissioner, which is exciting, but you haven't been part of the discussions in the past of how we want to do it. So it's a tricky thing because Meadows is a private entity, but their buses and the parking that we're talking about is for the people who live in our community that work up at Meadows. So yes, we need to charge them a little more than we would charge CAT, which is a government agency, but yet we still want to support the people who live here and make sure they have transportation to go to the mountain. I think also just tying in on this with information that Kevin's got a little layer in the packet of what's going on with ODOT and the roads and everything else. I think Meadows has got their hands full. And I think they would, be good with this amount. I just want to make sure that you guys are comfortable with that. And I feel like right now it's really important to help support Meadows with getting the people who work here up to work. But the discussion is for you to decide how you feel about that.
Some commissioners will, hey, we shouldn't charge them anything because every commissioner is like, we want to charge market rate. This is a compromise that works for everybody. And it's just year by year, right?
Yeah.
Because once we start doing
This is
things, it's
just
done.
this year, and let's see how it goes. And
Everybody be concerned.
I also feel like we're at a precipice of time. Meadows needs to make their decisions for their marketing and their planning. And we all know that, this entire situation is moving away probably in the next year. So this is probably the last time we're going to have this conversation for this entire situation moving back, correct?
not necessarily.
That's the long-term goal.
Yeah, the long-term goal would be that CAT would take it over. But
Yeah.
right now, it's still, they're run by Meadows. There are two separate groups doing it, but this is the Meadows buses to get the Meadows employees up there, and then they also use their bus over the holiday to help supplement CAT.
I had multiple questions that were already answered, so I have no more.
Okay, Heather?
I was having a hard time hearing again. Daryl, did you say that, did you already discuss this price with Meadows and they were agreeable to it?
I told Anne that this is what I was gonna bring to the commission. And she
Okay.
said, thank you for working with us on that. And so it was just the best it's kind of like throwing darts. I'm trying to come up with something that's good for everyone.
I think it's great.
Where we're serving the community too. So I think they, I'm hoping that they find this a lot better number and she appreciated negotiating with them. So if we're good, then I'll move forward with it.
Good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good, Heather? Go.
Thank you, Heather.
Kevin,
Thanks,
do you have anything
Commissioners.
to add to your executive director's report?
I do have a few. I do want to just call out that we do have Mark Knudsen on the line. And he is a representative with SDAO. As you know, my annual performance evaluation, we're supposed to get this done in August. Here it is, August. And so I know in the past, there's just been different approaches to the evaluation. And in talking with the members of the internal personnel committee, Commissioner Beaker, Commissioner Garing, I shared with them the packet materials, and they both thought that it might be worth reaching out to SDAO and Mark to kind of facilitate, at least for this first year, this process. So Mark is nice enough to join us. I know Mark through all the conferences, and I think there's a lot of information in the packet as far as the approach, but really this could be a good opportunity just to work with SBAO on this process.
Yeah, I'd briefly like to add something that came out of like a personnel committee meeting with the rest of the commission that Heather and I and Kevin were discussing, that over the past few years, our approach to this process has been a little bit scattershot. Last year we did a bonus type of thing. Lots of big corporations do bonuses. It works very well, but part of the reason it works well is you have hundreds of peers that do peer reviews. So it's a very calibrated process. This is such a unique situation from year to year. It's very hard to decide if Kevin sets his own goals and meets them all, does that lead to the big bonus, and then he can set them however he wants. So we had concerns about finding something that was fair to him and also in the public's best interest. And so we like the idea of a more standardized process for doing this. And SDAO offers a little seminar, I guess, which Mark can speak to, for a couple $1,000 that goes over, I guess, how to do this right, or one recommended way to do it. And so we wanted to have discussion and hear from him about that, and then make a decision if we want to do that or not, or just do the survey and use that. How do we all think we want to do this process?
So if I'm hearing correctly, the recommendation would streamline the process moving forward and standardize it, and this would be the way,
Every
the
year,
rule of law every year,
correct.
and set us up for success.
Yeah, but let's hear what Mark has to say about it, and then we can discuss further and make a decision about how we want to proceed. So tell us about your services.
Thank you. Would it be all right? I don't know if this is going to work, but I'd like to share my screen. I've got one slide from one of these previous evaluations that we've done, and let's see if we can figure out how to make this happen. So hopefully you can see a slide that has an arrow that has several steps across it. Does that look right?
Yes.
Okay. So the way we typically approach this, and again, this is, pay no attention to the dates. This is from work that we did last year, work that I did last year with Lane Transit District out of Eugene. But we did something, very similar to what you have in mind. This is what I would characterize as the full meal deal. So I'll use that terminology maybe a little later, but it really starts with the first step, which is I would come in and provide an overview of what the evaluation is all about, how the process will work, what the criteria would maybe be for your consideration. And that's sort of like step one. Then step two is, once you've had a chance to think about it, I'd come back, we would talk about any additional feedback on the criteria. And what I would really like to do is get the commission to adopt the standardized criteria. Here's the criteria you're going to use going forward for this evaluation. Then based on that approved set of criteria, Kevin would complete his self-evaluation. So again, everybody's operating on the same basic template, same basic standards that we're trying to achieve. Once Kevin provides you that information in terms of the self-evaluation, then each of the commissioners would complete their own evaluation. That's important that work be done independently by each commissioner. So you've got a form, you've got the standardized criteria, we'll give you a standard rating scale, and then you go away in your free time, which I'm sure you have plenty of, and complete your own evaluation of Kevin's performance in the previous year. And you have Kevin's input to that process in terms of what he's accomplished in the prior year. Once you complete the evaluation, that's when my job really kicks in, which is to what I like to call is herd the cats, to be able to make sure that information comes back to me and then compile all that information. We numerically summarize the scores, come up with an overall average as well as averages for each of the criteria, put that together in a summary that's anonymous. So it's not any one individual that is making comments regarding Kevin's individual performance. So we compile that summary and then come to a meeting with the board to review that summary. And that's the facilitation part of it. Is it's possible, it only happens just about every time, that there are different opinions within board members in terms of how the performance is. And so I will sit down with you and facilitate a conversation. You have the summary in front of you, and it's basically, okay, do we agree with the numerical summary? Are there changes? Did somebody miss something? Do we need to make adjustments? And reach a consensus, and that is in executive session. So you're not going to take any action, but reach a consensus in terms of what the overall evaluation is. And then once you kind of agree what you want to say, then bring Kevin into the room again in executive session and provide that evaluation. From there, once you've kind of standardized the process, gone through individual evaluations, summarized the whole results, and met with Kevin, that's when you're able to do a couple of things. One is in open session, approve the resulting summary evaluation. And secondly, then you can engage in any conversation that you want in terms of adjustments to compensation or a bonus or however you want to approach that. But you've got a really solid foundation at that point for being able to consider what adjustments you want to make in compensation. So that's the typical approach. Now, and again, the full meal deal, if you will, what Kevin has provided you in my conversation last week with Kevin is Kevin's done a lot of the kind of front end work here. He's identified a process. He, in your packet, I think, provided a schedule. He's proposed some criteria, and I'm going to unshare my screen here. He provided a form that has pretty much the same kind of information that we use. I think he stole it from us, but that's okay. And I'm honored, frankly. What imitation is a form of flattery, but we would use something like this. But in my approach, I'd love to spend a little more time with the commission to better understand, make sure everybody has a common shared understanding of what those criteria are and how they're going to be applied in the evaluation, so that everybody's really making an apples to apples sort of comparison in terms of how they're conducting the evaluation. And so in the simple hybrid model, if you want to use what Kevin's put forward, then that's where we can probably work for probably about $2,500. We would use the form that Kevin's put forward, wouldn't do the initial front end meeting to talk about standardizing criteria. And really all I would do is compile your scores based on the form that Kevin's provided, and then come to your next commission meeting in executive session to show you what the compiled scores look like, a summary of the evaluation, and then help facilitate a conversation so that you agree, hopefully, in terms of what it is you want to tell Kevin. If you want to take a half a step back and revisit the criteria and engage me in that process, then I need to adjust our fee just a little bit. And it'd probably be closer to about $4,000 for the full meal deal. But again, I would build on the great work that Kevin has done. Kevin also provided a really thoughtful self-evaluation in terms of review of the accomplishments that he's made in the past year, so he's got a head start on that. The only concern I have there is it's not broken down in terms of the exact same criteria that shows up on the form. And so it would be incumbent on the board members to sort of figure out how those accomplishments fit into the form that Kevin has provided. That's why kind of taking half a step back, having a standardized form that the commission agrees to, and then having Kevin really sort of provide his self-evaluation based on those performance criteria would probably be helpful. So I've rambled on and on. That's kind of the SDAO approach to how we would typically do it, how we might modify it to take advantage of the good work that Kevin's done. And for that, I'll just shut up and listen and do what you want to do.
You want me to go first?
Sure.
Well, I love consultants. But I also love transparency, and I also believe that the head of our organization should have, accountability and transparency. And I agree that we have, as a board, struggled over the years of this process was too long, this process wasn't full enough, this process was too fast, a little forgot about this, so it's been the whole spectrum of things. So where I agree that I do believe it a standardized thing, I would like to challenge all of us, knowing the financial situations that we are facing, utilizing the things that Kevin has, just pulled out of the air in his infinite wisdom of
Plagiarism.
Plagiarism, lack of a better word. But, just really being mindful of what's biggest bang for a buck, what do we really need, to do this, and not reinvent a wheel that has already been so nicely plagiarized already for us. So that's my 2 cents. But the transparency aspect of it, I do believe that we do need to have a little bit more of a standardized form for the public.
So Christy, are you thinking that you wouldn't want SDO at all, or the $2,500 amount?
I would say the $2,500
where he comes in.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to go any additional over that. I feel like we have enough here, but I do feel having an impartial partner take the information, gather it, and present it to the commission is helpful. So for that aspect, I say yes.
I have 2 questions. One, what is the minimum threshold that we have to do a formal RFP process? Is it $2,500? Like, what was that?
No, it's 25,000.
Great. So this would not need. So this okay. I just want to do my question because RFP process is expensive. I also think it's good to put something in place when things are going well, because it's easier to fall back and create that process when we're all it's in a positive trajectory as opposed to when we have to fix it. So I think it's good to start something and have it be the standard earlier than later.
Okay.
It's fine. If where you guys are on this, it's fine. This will be the 5th time I've had this conversation. There would be a different idea next year. There'll be a different idea after that, because there'll be new people that want to do it a different way. This is the 5th time I've had this conversation. However, the personnel committee wants to recommend we move forward. Okay, fine. And transparency is important. I agree. Individual commissioners, I think, are going to review Kevin and their experiences with him, and they're going to be different. I'm going to spend a lot more time reviewing the projects I've worked with Kevin on in the past year. I will not be spending a lot of thought process on stuff that you've worked with them on. Right. Talks about the company. Right. So I don't care what the format is. Yeah, that's where it's going to come from. There'll be some that we've all done together, but there's an awful lot of individual reflection there. So I don't care what the format looks
like. My only addition is I think that in the last 2 years, what's been missing is an opportunity where we all sit in executive session and have a conversation. I think that's really been missing. And frankly, that's where I get the most amount of value, is to to have that. It doesn't have to be terribly long, but I think it's very valuable, and I feel like that's just been missing a little bit. So I'm totally on board with the approach that Mark's suggesting. So if you guys have a head nod, we can move forward on that.
First, Heather, do you want to add anything?
No, I mean, I agree with Mark, that what Kevin gave us is, very organized, and I'm glad to hear him say that it's, pretty much the standard, the SDAO would recommend. I do like the idea of having him come in with just additional board training with helping us go through our own performance evaluations and helping us kind of wrap it up in a standard way. So I still think that maybe the SDAO hybrid would work well for our board.
Okay, here's a proposal. It seems like the one potential downside of proceeding with this evaluation worksheet, which is from SDAO, is that you did not put your achievements, you didn't lay them out by these breakdowns exactly. I actually think that we are capable of looking at your performance, both the things you self-reported and the things that we have observed from the shadows, and kind of doing this criteria. So I think the proposal of let's go ahead and do this and then have Mark come in and do that facilitation session in executive, because I think that will be educational for also when we come into maybe there's some particular issue where Ben, like you mentioned, well, you worked with Kevin on this and you say, oh, I've got a really high rating of how he did this, and I worked on him on something different, but in that area, I'm like, well, I don't think so. Yeah. That is where I think Mark's ability to help us navigate could be really helpful. Yes. So if that sounds good, let's do it.
With that in mind, so then Mark, our next public meeting's September 16th. Would you see is there a public portion, or would that entirely be an executive session?
It is primarily executive session. That's, again, assuming everybody gets their homework turned in. If everybody completes their forms by, I don't know, like the 12th, whatever, something like that, a few days before the board meeting, so I can compile the results, summarize it, and then I will hand it out at the meeting in executive session and share that with you. That's when the conversation occurs, because you're exactly right. There's going to be differences, and we want to make sure that we're sort of agreeing in terms of, you want to use the average or adjust those numbers in any way. But once that's all said and done, and once you've met with Kevin, I think it's really appropriate, since you can't make a decision in executive session, to then, as an item referred from executive session, to have the commission make a motion to approve the final evaluation form as considered in executive session. Boom. That creates the public record that you've completed it and provided the evaluation, and make sure that everybody is in agreement in terms of what, or that at least the commission has provided agreement in terms of what that evaluation looks like.
So, Mark, in the executive session, would it be at the beginning of the board meeting?
It's however you want to approach it. My only ask is that we not run too late. So my preference would be to do it at the beginning. But that said, if you want to do it at the end to provide some flexibility, because again, if everything falls into place, that could be a very short executive session. If there's big disagreements, it could run long.
Okay. Perfect.
Mark, are you East Coast or are you West Coast?
I am just down the road. I'm in Portland.
I'm just asking because you said, I'll be in DC in September, which is fine because I can still bridge, but I'm just because it's
We could even make a meeting at 4:30 if we find that.
Yeah, the executive ahead. That would be excellent.
I just want to make sure for agenda purposes before or after.
That's fine.
Okay.
Thank you.
Do you have anything else?
Very good.
just-
And so, I hadn't asked, but so I'll put together a small consulting services agreement between SDAO and the port. I assume Kevin has the signatory authority to be able to approve that for $2,500. I mean, we deal with a lot of different organizations.
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Very good. I look forward to working with everybody, and we'll make it happen.
Thank you.
See you next month.
Thank you, sir.
All right, and just a couple other things that weren't in the written report. Fall planning, it's coming up in November. So if you have any ideas or things that you'd like us to kind of preview, send those emails to me. I've been working on a scope of work for the strategic business plan procurement. And so I'll have a draft version of that in September. I did spend some wonderful morning with Ellen and Fiona Wild to see their Viento y Agua camp. I mean, there's over 40 kids learning good water safety. And so I thought that was a really nice thing that the port is offering the community. I do want to touch on one thing that Daryl mentioned in the ODOT cutbacks. I think everybody saw that pretty alarming presentation. On page 107 in your packet, there is a definition of different levels of service.
Yeah.
And that level of service E is, I want to draw your attention to this. That basically means that highway is generally not going to be maintained. And Highway 35 has been designated as a level E highway.
So here's the problem, that region 1 inset where we are is not in this packet. This presentation, you've got these level of service, but there's no, and then it says, see region 1 inset on both of these maps, that's where we are, but there's no region 1 map, which has Hood River County.
Well, unfortunately, if you look at 107,
Yeah.
the inset is in the upper left, just above the index.
And blurry.
It's really poor.
Okay. Oh, I see it now.
Yes.
Didn't even see that.
Yeah,
That's horrible.
I know.
Okay.
That's why I'm calling it out, because there's no way that you could have really read this.
Didn't even notice it. Okay.
So if you look there, that at the inset, there's kind of that purplish line on the far right. That's 35.
Great. So that's level E.
That's level E. And so,
Okay.
so the reason why I bring that to your attention is that if 35 is not being cared for, who knows what kind of bus service is going to be able to get out. And so just something that we need to monitor. And if we're going to have issues with flaggers, I mean, our jurisdiction is not to send our guys up onto 84.
I mean 35.
Or 84. You know, if for some reason,
Want them to not go.
if they're closing 84 and they're trying to get trucks off of 84, traditionally, that's not our jurisdiction.
Yeah.
So it could make, ODOT staff also stacks the semis on lot 1. That might not be there.
Okay.
So,
So-
and then again, because the map is amazing, it's quality. What level is 26 from? This is
I
for
think that's C,
a C, okay.
right? So there's no A's or B's.
Okay. Just for rerouting purposes.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
So anyway, just wanted to bring that to your attention. And then also, I believe that Jeff and Tor have an announcement.
Yeah.
So Tor,
Is that Jeff too? Is he here?
I think he.
Hey.
There it is.
All right. All right. Well, I'll go ahead and share it, and then Jeff, you can add
Wait, this
anything.
is like the one meeting Jeff doesn't attend in person and then gets to talk.
I know.
No, and I have a son on the East Coast waiting for me to call him.
Oh, okay.
I had to fight with Kevin about who was going to announce this, but he said that I'm an elected official, so I had to do it. We just got a notice of award from the Department of Transportation via the office of Senator Ron Wyden that the Port of Hood River has received a grant in the amount of $502,000, $650. I think I said that right. $502,650. So a little over $500,000 for our T-Hanger project at the airport. So
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
fantastic.
Thank you, Jen.
Um,
For
very exciting that we got this. Would you like to add anything, Mr. Renard?
No, I believe you covered it. It's just a fantastic. I gotta say something.
Hey, Jeff, what is the status like with PAE and the engineering and going out to bid?
We are literally waiting for these type of award letters to come from the federal government right now. Our next big hiccup is the FAA has not sent very many of these notices of award out yet. So there's a real opportunity that in the next 2 or 3 days, we'll get the next award letter. And then it's going to mean probably calling a special session for you guys to approve or pre-approve Kevin to sign these grants and keep moving forward. It's going to be a very tight window because of the lack of staffing at the FAA level right now. We are poised right now to we need to put a intent to award letter out for Gallant Construction so we can get through the 1 week of protest period. If there's anybody that protests us intending to award to them, I don't know if I have to have approval from you guys or if Kevin needs that to put an intent to award letter out so we can start that process as well. But we are, as fast as we get the next award letter, we need to get our award letter out to Gallant Construction and we'll start this process.
Jeff, is there any concern with the end of the fiscal year and obligating funds prior to the 30th end date, or is that not a concern at this point?
Say that one more time. We cut out just a little bit.
Sorry, is there any concern with the end of the fiscal year coming up to obligate both federal and state funding, or is there not a concern, or is that not known given the non-signing of the grant agreement? Yes.
I don't see any issue with it. At all. The funding will be there. And again, we don't award any contracts until we actually have the funding.
All right.
Did that answer the question?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I will, I'm around. So special sessions, let's keep this going. That's
Okay.
amazing.
Can we pre-approve it or is that possible?
I'd rather feel comfortable getting the materials to you so you know what you're approving.
Any other committee or commission reports?
I have a question for the executive director for the executive. Is that okay to go back?
Yeah, absolutely.
For the 6F mitigation, will the Port Commission be briefed by Hood River White Sands Bridge Authority about the options?
So you're talking about what other option? Like I know the Hood River Valley Parks and Rec came up with some mitigation opportunities for recreational lands. Is that?
So I mean, does the Port Commission have an opportunity to be briefed by the people doing all the 6F work so that we understand what's going on with the land that we are currently sitting on?
We certainly could have them come in. I guess the question is, would the commission like to see where the other opportunities are for mitigating this land? Because there's really not a lot of opportunities, if any, on port-owned land, so it's likely going to be somewhere else, elsewhere.
Yeah,
So
we probably need to know that as soon as possible.
As long as other, more than happy to Catherine to give us that information, but if there is a presentation that would be informative to us and present what their options are on both sides of the river, if that's even the thing.
Yes.
I'd love to know that.
Yeah, I don't know if we're going to be able to. One of the options was the White Salmon Riverfront Park, but I don't believe Oregon Parks and Rec District's going to allow it to be mitigated in another state.
Right.
So Catherine, maybe we can talk to the Bridge Authority and
Yep.
see who might be the best person to come, if not September, maybe October.
Yep.
Okay,
That'd be great.
perfect.
Along those lines, and sorry to be out of order, has the Bridge Authority, is there all sitting, there's no like, everyone's been reassigned?
Oh, the positions, the board. Oh, gotcha. Yeah, I'm not sure what the status is.
Follow up on that.
So I think Commissioner Fox, he extended his term, 6 months?
It's my understanding there's the Oregon side is set in stone until January and or Commissioner Fox moves out of the Hood River County. Currently his residence is in Hood River, and so his term is until the end of end of this year. So January 1 would be a new potential opportunity for them. So that's nobody's.
And what's happening is for Washington, like
There's multiple open seats in the Washington side, both
voting and alternates, but that's just because of people moving and or resigning. So, but the Oregon side is 6 active volunteers.
So how many active are on the Washington side currently?
There's 3 open slots.
3 open.
All 3 are voting, or some of those are
No, one
alternates?
is. I did not watch the Clickitat County Commission meeting today, I believe actually, so I may be speaking out of turn, but it's my understanding that there is 1 active seat and 2 alternate seats currently open on the Washington side. I may be missing if
Unless
they,
they fill them.
unless they fill them.
Correct.
From other people, but I do believe they have 1, I believe they have 3 slots, they have 2 people, so they have 1 open slot potentially at the end of all.
I believe Mayor Kiefler from White Salmon stepped down.
Correct.
Any other committee questions? Oh, I'm not doing good news after you're good.
I know.
I'm not trying to one up you. No, please do. I got one and I insisted to Kevin that I was gonna tell you guys.
Good.
Please do, please share. Good work. Congratulations, winners. On Friday, we received notice from ODOT's traffic engineer that our roundabout cost is approved.
Oh, what a good day.
And WSP, Kevin, everybody did a great job. There were very few red flags, no red flags, very few questions, all minor topics. Great work by WSP and by Kevin. We are now full speed ahead with funding and design. Great. And ODOT's actually very supportive of this.
Yes.
This is going to allow full build out down there someday. So you may see an amendment coming to WSP's contract funding as far as their contract for the next year's already been approved.
Great.
But as far as scope and what we're doing now, we're full speed ahead on design
Oh
and
my
funding.
gosh, that's
Yeah, great.
amazing. High five.
Good work. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm so stoked.
High five to
Yeah.
Jennifer?
Down the road, high five.
we gotta take those as they come, right?
And then just a couple other things too. I didn't know if anybody had any questions about the Indian Trail. I know that's something that's been out there. Ryan's been volatile, but he's kind of managing that project, working with the property owner and the city. You did see a new letter in front of you.
Yep.
And so if you have any questions about that process or what you can expect going forward, I trust Ryan to work with the city and get a plan together for the property owner.
Yeah. So just the overview is the city's told us, hey, you need to fix this problem, and it's we're gonna go to the property owner and say, hey.
Yes.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly. So, yeah, we're going to incur the initial cost.
Yep.
Because it's our property, but our legal team is completely prepared to pass that along to the property.
Okay.
I do have an update for the bridge.
Oh, please share. Yeah.
So we are doing a delegation to Washington to fight for the funding that has already been obligated, appropriated, and just not distributed. That is occurring September 14th through 17th, and I was chosen as the Oregon representative to go, along with Eric Wilson, who is the new Commissioners of Washington State. Great representation team, which is great. I will be virtual then for that meeting in September because I will be in DC. But that's the big news moving forward is that we got that.
Everyone's fake news but me. It's not fair.
You're having a great summer.
Yeah.
It's big. If there's nothing else that you can think of.
All right.
Can you read the script?
I will. I love the script. I love that it's in yellow. Thank you. The Port Commission will now meet in executive session under ORS 192.6602E to consider real property transactions. Only news media representatives and staff designated by the Port Commission are permitted to attend the executive session. News media representative, staff, and Port Commission members are respectfully directed not to report on any of the discussions that occurred during the session, except to state the general subjects previously announced. The Port will return to regular session if there is a need for action on the executive session item. No final action or decision may be taken in executive session. Any materials distributed will be collected by the executive director at the end. And I now, with that, adjourn.